Michael the Silk Olajide Jr. is a former title contender and went on to revolutionize the fitness industry. After boxing and beyond the ring, he took fitness boxing to the next level. He's the founder of Aerobox, Aerojump, and made cardio cool again.
Welcome to TITLE Unboxed. With more than 40 years of experience in the fight game, our host, Doug Ward, will be covering every corner of the ring as we get comfortable between the ropes. We'll talk with both the lesser knowns and the legends, discuss boxing's rich history and current state of the game. We'll also look at today's latest innovations, equipment breakdowns, and insights you won't uncover anywhere else. Join us now as we take a look inside TITLE Unboxed.
Michael, good seeing you. Thanks for joining us on TITLE Unboxed.
Great seeing you, Doug. It's been a long time, been many years. Yeah, I'm real happy to see you.
I know, it's crazy how time flies.
Yeah, it has. I remember when was it we initially met? Where was it? Was it in Indiana or somewhere?
We did, yes, it was. We did some stuff at the Arnold Classic.
Yes, that's right.
In Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. Wow.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to this conversation because, I mean, you got such a breadth of experience. You know, You were former amateur, former professional fighter, an entrepreneur, into the fitness industry, into the movie industry. So I think we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about, and probably you can share some insights for people that, want to get into the types of things that you're doing, personal training and running in the gym and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to. Let's do it.
So it's interesting because, again, we go back. And you started the cardio boxing thing before anybody else. I mean, you're really the godfather of fitness boxing, and do a workout you can't refuse, right?
Thank you.
But this was before Title Boxing Club, before Mayweather, before Everybody Fights is big now. Rumble is out there.
Yeah, all before them all. And so we started, I guess it was 1991. It came out of a necessity from my eye injury and boxing, and I wasn't trained to do many other things except box, so you had to be a little bit intuitive and inventive at that point.
Yeah, and you were actually, Billy Blanks made a big splash through his infomercials, but you were even pre that craze.
Yes, yeah, pre Billy Blanks, and in fact Billy Blanks was working with Sugar Ray Leonard, I think, and it's really interesting because the first one to hit the scene with a boxing video like that was national or international was Sugar Ray Leonard. He did Box Out.
Oh, the Box Out, yeah, with Jill Goodacre.
Exactly, with Jill Goodacre. But here's the thing: I was already working, and I'd sent his I think Polydor, someone like that, or Polygram. They had they produced Sugar Ray's workout. And about three quarters of a year earlier, I had sent them my video, and I'd sent them, this is my idea. We had a bunch of people set up, and we did a bunch of workouts and sent them to them, and they said, oh, yeah, we'll let you know what's up. And I got my introduction to the industry, boy, because they took that concept and they ran it with Ray, which of course made sense. And then after Ray and Billy Blanks were working together, so Billy Blanks did a boxing version, a kickboxing or karate version of the boxing workout that I did, and that went crazy. Taibo, was Taibo, and it went really good. But I also learned to popularize the genre. You know what I mean? It helps strengthen and build the genre. Everything does. Yeah.
Well, and that whole craze was pretty popular for a while, and then has come back around. Yes. I think we might be on the tail end of it again, but I think people understand. There's nothing like a boxing workout.
Yeah, there really isn't. I mean, I like to say that, from all the decades I've been involved in it, it really teaches, it complements the human body and human psyche in a way nothing else does. I mean, even just the way we punch, it moves the way we all move naturally. Every single human being, everything initiates from the core and sort of like extends outward, and with boxing, you really put your core first. That's what teachers, a lot of them don't even know they're teaching it that way. But even great boxing coaches will teach you. It comes from here first. You turn your body on it. And that's why fighters have great abs without even doing a crunch or a push-up or any of the sit-up. It's because of the way in which they move and the repetition at various speeds and in levels of intensity. And you just get you release so much. The endorphins are great.
Yep.
You feel a sense of accomplishment, and you feel you're challenged too because there is recall and reflexes involved in boxing. And another thing about boxing that's so great, Doug, is you can do absolutely do a boxer's workout with the most minimum of equipment.
Right.
Any at all. And a lot of people, if you wanted to play basketball or football, or you wanted to do a football player's workout, basketball player's workout, ice skate, or whatever it is, you need resources. With boxing, you can get the best of boxing with no resources at all. A jump rope, but you can always put light hand weights in your hand and do that. Or shadow boxing. If you hit a bag, that's it's not a heavy. It's not a heavy cost to get involved.
Right. And something you've done from the start that's been very good is, you really stick to the principles of boxing. And I always tell everybody, if you're going to do a boxing workout, a fitness workout, even if it's for fitness, do it like a boxer. Do it with the proper mechanics, execution of the punches, and proper technique. Because that's how you're going to get the most benefit fitness-wise or training to fight.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. I think a lot of people, because there's so many people that don't know boxing, and that's a famous saying now, right?
Yeah.
You don't know about boxing. It's going around
the Roger Mayweather, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I say it. You don't know shit about boxing.
Yeah, exactly.
we just up this to the PG version.
Yeah, I like that. But that's the thing. Is like every man on the planet, they just believe boxing is just so easy, and you put on gloves and you punch, and there's no discipline to it. And it's not. There's so much thought, and when you get to the higher levels, or even just like the introductory levels of boxing, it's just so convoluted. It's like there's just so many things going on that you have to think about, and eventually you'll get better through repetition. But yeah, it's like it's challenging, but the benefits are amazing when you conquer it.
But didn't you have like 3 basic principles you felt boxing brought to the fitness game?
Yeah,
intensity and was one of them. I can't remember all 3 of them, but I remember us talking about it.
Yeah, we had talked about it. There was there's the physical, the mental, the spiritual. There's the body.
One is the physicality.
Yeah, there's the physicality, and there's the mental, obviously, because and you're working in terms of, when we're talking about in terms of attributes, you're working things in boxing and you should be is like speed, dexterity, agility, resiliency, power, all the things that are really important to a boxer, you can get from a boxer's workout.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's tireless. Boxing is the Western Hemisphere's martial art, right?
Right.
It's just such an amazing thing, and it's not just this primitive urge to punch, which people think it is. I think the most skilled fighters are probably the least aggressive people on the planet.
Right.
You know what I mean? And because it comes from a place of skill, it doesn't come from a place of angst and pain and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Yes, a natural aggression can help you do it a lot better. You'll get much more out of it because you punch with a certain type of intensity. But when you learn it from the skill side, you're able to get to that level as well.
Right.
So so you get this great, I like to call it aggressive yoga. You know what I mean? That's kind of what boxing, that's what boxing fitness is. If you're taught right by somebody that knows boxing and brings you up the ladder, you'll have all the attributes that a professional fighter could attain, with the exception of getting hit. It's like get fit without getting hit.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, fitness boxing is the same as regular boxing. Anybody can throw a towel over their shoulder and say, I'm a coach.
Yes, exactly.
It's just the nature of the game. But
yeah. It's interesting because now that I don't have my gym anymore, and I'm in a lot of other gyms, and I see these guys teaching, and I'm just kind of like, wow, and not wow in terms of they're so bad, but just wow in terms of this person could get so much more out of it than what they do, and they don't realize it, and it's upsetting because you want to, you know what I mean? You just got to shut your mouth and just like, yeah, great work and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But you know that a person gets so much more out of it than what they're getting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they just don't know the difference.
Yeah, they don't know the difference. You don't expect them to because, hey, listen, I mean, it's almost like boxing is the only sport. Like, I couldn't go in there and teach a tennis player how to play tennis, and I wouldn't even pretend to.
Right.
Like, you teach someone for the first time and then start teaching them how to, what do I know about it?
Yeah.
And the same with basketball or football, or even running. I mean, running is something that we all do naturally, but there are running teachers that'll teach you how to do it properly.
Yeah.
Gymnastics guys, you know what I mean? Coaches. Where do people get off thinking that they can come along and teach boxing and they've never boxed before?
It's true.
Or they get off, like a martial artist or jujitsu or any of those kinds of things. These guys have been trained in jujitsu forever, but with boxing, it's like the stepchild that just nobody cares about. People are just like, yeah, whatever.
It's just the Wild West.
Exactly.
It's the Wild West.
If you're just punching with your hands, then you know what I mean. And maybe that's the American way. You know what I mean? It's like anyone can do it. It's open to everybody, and that's a beautiful thing about it as well. You know what I mean? Being open to seeing different experiences, and that which is good, it'll enhance, and that which is bad, it'll just go its way.
100%. So you talked about, I've always admired the way you know the Michael Olajide brand, you know the Aero Jump brand, and you really adhere to that very, very well, more than, even some big businesses and stuff. Yeah. But you say, I mean, it's interesting, you said you never had a plan B. And I think I read something once that a friend of yours said, well, you need to, when you were a kid, 15, 16 years old, what are you going to do if boxing doesn't work? And your dad didn't like that.
Yeah,
he's like, there is no plan B.
Yeah, there is no plan B. It's like you're all in, and that's the only way you can get to where you've got to. And your body, like, I don't know if my father just knew it was a part of him or if he knew it was a part of me, but when you're up against the wall and it's necessity, you're going to do what you have to. And hopefully, I mean, I didn't have the kind of character that was going to be able to turn to a life of crime or anything like that. and I certainly didn't. I don't think I also had the character to kind of like just sit there and do nothing. I had to do something. Yeah. So necessity dictated that I do a certain thing. And I started off really small in terms of, starting the first, fitness boxing class in a gym, which just wasn't happening. And it developed into something, and it started something like it really did go global. There's nowhere in the world that boxing for fitness isn't right now. So it's amazing.
Can you put into words, again, because I think you've done such a good job adhering to your brand, and what that brand is. Can you put into words from a marketing perspective for fighters or business owners, entrepreneurs? How do you find that? How do you find what's true to your brand and what speaks to you and what your look and feel and all that's going to be? Or is it unique to each individual?
I think it's unique to each individual, but I think like you are your brand. So all the attributes that are important to me are also in the brand. And I wanted to get to a certain place, to a certain level in my professional boxing career. And I thought that these are the things that I'd have to do in order to get there. Well, along the journey, things happen. Like, you lose the use of your eye, or you lose a fight, or there's certain people that do things that kind of like hurt your career or hurt your desire to, you know what I mean? There's so many other ingredients that go into the mix, but you have to maintain your integrity. And if you can maintain your integrity and the things that you, the reason why you do things, you maintain that, and that's the foundation, that's the bedrock of your principles, of your business, and then you just go forward with that. And if they're good, it will rise to the top. Yeah. And I don't think there's ever been anything that comes from the heart that doesn't come to the surface. Eventually, it will get there. As long as you stay your path, it may not be when you want it to be. Right. That's for sure. I still do not believe that I've hit my pinnacle. I think I'm extremely far away from it, but I'm really much, much closer now than I've ever been. All the experiences I've had in the past, losing the business, people kind of like stealing your thunder or whatever it is, all those things I believe are going to pay off in the end. I may not be the one to do them, but that knowledge that I have it may go into that another individual, and it's going to flourish. It's going to hit its peak.
I like
It
that.
kind of has to, because that's, it's true, it's real, and it's unique, so it'll find its way.
Yeah, very true. I mean, when you do things for authentic purposes, not altruistic, some other ulterior motive, I believe it works out for whatever it's supposed to be. And again, like you said, it might not be exactly what you had in mind, but it's for what's best for everybody involved in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%, Doug.
So you were actually born in the UK, right? And then
Liverpool, England.
and then moved to how old were you when you moved to Canada, Vancouver, right?
Vancouver, Canada, 6 or 7 years of age, and then grew up there up until, oh boy, I must have been maybe like 20, something like that, when I first moved to New York, and I fought Curtis Parker in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
And word got back to Madison Square Garden, and then they brought me to the East Coast. At that point, I think I was 15 and 0, and I'd fought a couple of recognized people like Elio Diaz. His only loss was to Donald Curry for the World Championship, and Donald Curry was pound for pound one of the best in the world then. And so I fought him. I knocked him out in 7. I stopped him in 7, and I had fought a number of other guys before I'd. When Michael Spinks fought in Vancouver, he fought Oscar Rivadinera on that undercard. I fought this kid, Stacy McSwain, who just came off fighting some really good guys, and I beat him, and I was only like 5-0 at that point. And so I got on the radar early, and then once I got out to New York, it just kind of moved really fast.
Well, you mentioned Donald Curry. You came up in one of the toughest times in boxing. I mean, you talk about competitions, the Hearns and Barkleys, the Tommy Hearns, the Ray Leonard Hagler, Donald Curry. You said, the list goes on and on.
Mike
what an
McCarthy,
era!
I mean, everyone. The whole era, the early to mid late '80s was just like packed with talent, and even like guys outside the top 10 were still murder. You know what I mean? You get you top 20, even top 30, John LeCicero and guys like that. Frank the Animal Fletcher, James Hard Rock Green. It's just like it's competition for everybody.
Well, I think what helped that was you had USA Tuesday night fights, and you had ESPN Friday night fights, and that was happening every week. So fighters got exposure, and you get that makes the cream rise to the top. They got more to fight for when you're in front of the TV cameras.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know what it is about why boxing does that ebb and flow thing. It's like now in terms of the talent, like the heavyweight division, the talent sort of like ebbs, but then it's going to come back. But we lose a lot of talent to a lot of other sports, and people think there are easier ways to making money, and there probably
are. Yeah,
you're not wrong.
So I always told all my fighters, if you got something else to do as a career, go do it.
Yeah.
If you got no other options, that's another deal. But
but boxing, and it's interesting because obviously the best of the boxers, look at Mayweather, even though he's retired, he's still come out of retirement and make $100 million. Alvarez, he's making millions of dollars. If you're the top, you will make probably in one fight, Mayweather's going to make what everyone in boxing's made for the last 2-3 years. I don't know, fighters don't get paid very much. And I don't know, that's kind of the interesting thing of it. It's a real interesting, that conundrum is kind of.
Well, boxing it goes in cycles, but I think the early 80s, I called it the golden age of boxing, because that's when I started fighting as an amateur. Everybody was on network TV. You had Cooney, Mancini, Ray Leonard all fighting on ABC Wide World of Sports. So it's just that awareness. Yeah.
So you had ABC Wide World of Sports. You had CBS with Tim Ryan and how could I forget?
Was it Gil Clancy?
Gil Clancy, Gil Clancy. You had NBC, Marv Albert and Ferdy Pacheco, and then you had HBO. They would show like the super huge fights. You know what I mean? Like Leonard and Hearns and stuff like that. So you had one mega right here, and then you had all these other guys that would be putting you on TV, and then of course after that there was like USA and ESPN. They got in the mix.
Yeah, it's too bad because I felt before this lockdown of the country, we were hitting that golden age for our era again, you know? And then
Yeah.
there's, of course, that everything went sideways and
Yeah, but there are a few good fighters out there. Like I see this one young kid right now from New York. He's like a welterweight, Brian Sabayo.
okay, I don't know if I'm familiar with
Yeah,
him.
yeah, he's very, very talented. He's probably like about 15-0 right now. Extremely smart kid.
Yeah.
He's from the Dominican Republic, but I think he's grew up here. But I looked at him and I saw it, and I was just like, wow, that skill is incredible. Like the skill he has
Yeah.
is really impressive. And there are a lot of other kids. Of course, Crawford. I'm amazed by him. I look at that talent, and you see the boxing, like the middleweights, the welterweights, the lightweights. That's the backbone of boxing.
Yeah.
That's what holds boxing together when the heavyweights aren't getting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like you look at heavyweights and it looks like, yeah, okay. But,
Well, again, going back to the 80s, I mean, Ali exited the scene. So
Yeah.
who's making the sport? It was
Yeah.
the Fabulous Four. It was the Four Kings and
Absolutely.
all the guys surrounding, knocking on that door.
and look, and even the lightweights in those days. I mean, you had Alexis Arguello, you had,
Yeah.
I mean, Natalia Aaron Pryor, you had just like ridiculous
Yeah.
talent. And not even only talent but personalities. They had this natural, it wasn't like everyone was about money. You just felt these guys' passion. I remember watching like Bazooka Limon oh man, Bobby
Yeah.
Chacon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bobby Chacon and who's that? Not Bramble, but the south part of England, Uganda. Oh man, he was really nice. He won the junior Boza Edwards.
Boza Edwards, okay, yeah, Boza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you watch all those guys, and it was just Wilfredo Gomez, Salvador Sanchez. It was just so colorful. It was beautiful.
Yeah, well, you came from a great time in boxing, but you didn't just stumble into it. I mean, your dad was a fighter, right, in Nigeria?
Yeah, he was a fighter in Nigeria. Then he made it from Nigeria over to England, which was a blessing, I believe,
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
He moved over to England. He was still fighting, and he was also did woodwork, and he had worked in the shipyards in Liverpool, but jobs started to dry up there. So over in Vancouver, Canada at the time, they had the Vancouver, Richmond was still just growing. So they needed people to work on the docks and the shipyards and building and stuff like that. So my dad was a woodworker. He found work. He put it in.
Yep.
Went over to Vancouver, Canada. Then, we followed about a year later. And my mom and my brother and two sisters, we came over to Vancouver and just, started our life there. Now my mother and father are divorced, so when we got over there, so I lived with my mom, and I didn't discover boxing until I was 15, so I didn't start
really?
boxing until late. Yeah, and
So
then
he didn't encourage you to get into it. You just came around because that's what you were familiar with, what he did.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was a kid, the earliest memory of my dad boxing that I remember is I remember on a what do they call those things, like a wardrobe, a big wooden wardrobe. And I remember at the top, and I was just little, I must have been like 3 or 4. I used to look up and I see his boxing boots up there, and they were these shiny gold boots, right? So I remember looking up at those boots on the top of that thing, and I was just like, wow, that's just amazing.
Like the Indiana Jones thing. It's like, ooh,
Exactly.
don't take it off the stone.
Yeah, so there was just like, it was just so amazing to me to see those things. And I remember watching the fight with my father. I guess it was one of Ali's fights, and then after that, he brought me to the gym a couple times when I was a kid, and I remember the smell. You'll never forget it. When you go into a boxing gym in those days, there's no air conditioning. All sorts of bodies have been in that place. They don't change the spit bucket for like a month.
Yep.
You know what I mean? The sweat, the gloves, how the gloves smelled and everything. And people just, one guy finished with the gloves sparring, another guy has to stick their hand in the same glove, and you're just going, man, it was like a Petri dish.
Yeah,
and
the wood, the must, all that.
Yeah, exactly.
All that.
You would, yeah. You would, even the head guards, you used to be able to, like, when you'd have to borrow someone else's head guard to go into a spar, and you can, like, when you scrape the inside of it,
Oh, yeah.
like balls of whatever, I don't know what it is.
Nasty.
Yeah, it was so nasty. The only thing you wouldn't do is borrow someone else's mouth guard. That was out of the question.
Yeah. Well, I've heard stories about that too.
That's one thing I never lost. I remember we had one guy in the gym. His name was Mike Muldoon, and he was a jokester, man. He had a great left hook, and he was a jokester. And what he always used to do, if you asked him to rinse off your mouth guard in between rounds, he'd go, "Yeah, I'll do it." And he'd take your mouth guard, he'd rinse it off with the thing, and then he'd go, "Oops," and he'd drop it into the spit bucket. And that shit, it hasn't been changed for a month, and it was
nasty.
Right?
Oh, nasty.
Whenever he asked me, I was like, "Nah, I'm keeping my mouth guard in. It's cool. Thank you."
I'm good.
Yeah,
The things you do for the love of a sport, right?
Yeah. Some guys don't know any better. I bet back in the 70s, like 79 or whatever, early 80s, it's like we didn't know too much about like that kind of disease. That we could be starting a bubonic plague. We don't know.
Right. It doesn't matter. Well, and he opened the Kingsway Gym. Was that before or after he started training you?
It was before the Kingsway Boxing Gym in Vancouver. That was the first one, and yeah, he opened it up there, and that was before me. So my father had a boxing gym. He trained guys. I was living with my mom, and at that point, I was like, I was 15. I was doing nothing. I was too skinny and small to play football, and boxing just seemed to be ground level. My mother and father didn't get along so well, so I kind of had to move in with my father in order to box, and I was kind of like, it wasn't the most comfortable transition because I was living with my mom and it was all good there, but in order to box, I had to make that move, so I moved over and I stayed there with him, and I started boxing, and we kind of moved really fast. I didn't have the most extensive amateur career, and that's really important. Although I did fight some really good amateur fighters early in my career, like within my first amateur fights, I fought 2 junior Olympic amateur world champs. One was one was Dale Walters, who actually got a silver against Robert Shannon in the 84 Olympics in LA. So Dale Walters and so I had like 5 fights when I fought him, and he was really good. He was like world champ, and I didn't stand a chance. I had like 5 amateur fights, and he beat my ass. He didn't stop me, but he won. He won, and I learned.
Well, that's baptism by fire.
Oh man, I was like, what? This guy had like 100 amateur fights. I had 5, and maybe 2 of them I lost at that point. It was early in my career. And then I fought a guy named Mylon Watkins, who's out of Seattle, who was also another junior Olympic champion, and he was incredible. I don't know, he was a lost talent. He didn't make the transition to pro. Incredible talent. I actually beat him. I don't know how. I swear to God, I don't even remember moving my hands, but I beat him.
Heart and adrenaline.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably like I threw because he threw. I don't know, but I got that one. And then I fought Greg Hogan also.
Oh, really?
For my 10th fight, and then I fought in the Seattle Golden Gloves, and I fought Joey Balintz, and Joey Balintz was an alternative. He beat Pernell Whitaker in the Olympics to go for the Olympics, but then he lost to Pernell Whitaker in not the trials, but like after you go to the trials, he beat him in the trials. Then you had to beat him one more time in order to see who went to the Olympics, who was the alternative, and who that. And Pernell Whitaker won that decision. So I lost a decision to him. So I got some pretty good amateur experience out of it all, and some really great guys. And then I just, I think I had like 20 something amateur fights, and I turned pro, and it was on from there.
Yeah. Your dad was strict about fundamentals, right? I mean, he was all about, lead with the jab, perfect execution of every punch.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what he was all about. And his main thing was, 1, the jab, and 2, conditioning. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that to be really strong focus points of a building block. A part of it anyway, in terms of realizing your potential.
Right.
One of the most important things for any athlete, or even for any business person, or even any parent, or if you're in a relationship, whatever it is, one of the most important things you must never get and make sure you never get is tired. You know what I mean? Emotionally and physically. I learned, early in my amateur career and one time in my professional career, when I wasn't conditioned, when I did get tired, every single thing you may do after that, it doesn't matter the attribute, you could be the fastest guy in the world, the hardest puncher, take the best punch, it doesn't matter what it is. If you get tired, all those attributes are useless. It doesn't even matter. It's like emotionally, mentally, physically, if you get tired, it's over. You're regular. You just turn, you lose your superpowers. That's your kryptonite. So,
it all goes out the window. Your technique starts to fail you, and your chin.
The same level as everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the most interesting things that I learned. Always be in the greatest physical, mental, emotional shape you can be in. And your relationship, no matter what kind of relationship you're in, will go on. Just keep those things, just keep that at least healthy. Don't get tired. You'll be able to figure it out. You'll work your way through things. You know what I mean? And it'll be better at the end. You'll be making decisions that you're making yourself on purpose. You won't be making decisions that are reactions
out of survival.
Out of survival. You know what I mean? You don't want to get into that mode, because then you do things that you shouldn't be doing in order to get out of them. You're just compounding the issue, really, right?
Well, it's ironic that you being so well conditioned was kind of your MO as a fighter, and then that's how you've made your living today. You're all about conditioning and how to get in condition and stay in shape. And
you're right, Doug. I feel like boxing served as my apprenticeship. Like I've been in fitness longer than I've actually boxed. So it's kind of interesting, and a lot of the desire and fire that I took from my career, because look, I had to stop boxing when I was 26. And I had like physical damage. I think I was maybe like 23.
Really?
When the eye started to when it went on me. So.
That happened in sparring, right?
Yeah, it happened in sparring. It was crazy. I was at Gleason's gym, and it was at Gleason's gym, the one on 7th Avenue, right by the Garden. And it was I don't know, we just moved from Canada, and I wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't there. And I was sparring with this kid, and he was a young guy. He was bigger than me, but young, and nothing I couldn't have been able to handle. It was like 7-0, but I just didn't go in there expecting anything. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he threw an uppercut. Bow, and he hit me on the mouth, and he split my lip like here, like thick. I had to get, I don't even know how many stitches like this. And I was just coming back after a fight, so it'd been a couple of weeks, and again, like I said, I wasn't feeling it. Bam, I got hit. I remember my head went back. Bam, and I turned and I looked at him, and as I was looking at him, he was throwing another uppercut, and he caught me right under the eye. Bow. And my eye just, I don't know, it left my head. I went and grabbed it before it hit the ground, pulled it back in my head. and like the place all of a sudden was just going crazy. And my dad jumped in the ring because he was my trainer then, but he was upset because that just wasn't really how you spar. That wasn't the agreement we were going in. It wasn't like, it was just, he's coming back off a fight, we're just going to move light.
Be working.
He was going in there to make a name, but you should know that. Every time you step in the ring, I should have known that. It's just, it was just a miscalculation on my half. But this kid caught me with a punch, bow, and dropped the eye in the socket. So what you said Billy Joe had from Canelo, the uppercut, same thing. I had an orbital fracture. The eye dropped in the socket. So my vision from here and here forward was double. So I had to kind of like, you kind of have to adapt, because I had no other choice. It's like I either fight or I have to go back to Vancouver, and I have to, I'm not trained for any profession. I'm not, no vocation. So I'm working at McDonald's or doing something, you know what I mean? Doing something I don't want to do, probably. So I was like, okay. And at that point, that reignited my fire. I had, a pretty like it was a heavy injury, but I had to mask it in order to fight. Even just to get to a fight, you had to hide it in order, because the athletic commissions are like, yo, you're seeing double, this ain't gonna happen. So I kind of had to mask it, and you get around, and at that point is when I said, okay, if I got to wake up and make this thing happen.
Yeah.
So at that point, I really rededicated myself. I lit a fire under my ass, and at that point, I must have been rated number 13 in the world, something like that, 15. I was outside of it. Then I had a couple of fights that got me on the map again, and then I knocked out at the Garden. I knocked out Richard Burton in 4, and it was a really exciting fight. It was really cool. And then an opportunity came. I was always in shape, and Tyrone Butterfly Crowley, remember him? He was supposed to fight somebody, but they couldn't make that fight happen because somebody wanted too much money. So they said, okay, well, what about the next one? The Garden offered them up. NBC, they said, we can get Olajide versus Dangerous Don Lee. And Dangerous Don was like 25 1-on-1 with 24 knockouts in the southpaw, and huge. He knocked out Tony Simpson, and anyone he hit, he knocks out.
Yeah,
and
he had
like, oh. Yeah, so I'm like, for my first fight on NBC, I get to fight this guy. I'm like, oh, thanks a lot. Everyone else gets somebody with like 7 losses, but it's like, you fight that guy with a 99% KO record. I was like,
seriously.
So anyway, we made it happen, and we made a real cool splash at that point. And I won. I knocked him out in 9 rounds. It was a great fight. I boxed. Fear is an incredible motivator. You know what I mean? Well, I should say respect. Respect is an incredible motivator. I really respected him because I'd seen whenever he gets hurt, that's when he's at his most dangerous.
Yeah.
And I couldn't take anything for granted with him, and so I was like, okay. He had an incredible amateur experience as well, and so he knew what he was doing, and I was able to win. I knocked him out, and it was an impressive performance, and it moved me to the front of the the young guns up and coming. There was Michael Nunn, Frank Tate, Hearns and Barkley, Sambu Kalambe. You had a lot of kids over in Europe as well. Never mind just here in the States. So that put us on the radar. And then after that, I fought Troy Durrell, who was another undefeated fighter. He was 23-0 with 21 knockouts.
He knocked you down for the first time in your career, right?
No.
Who knocked you down?
Yeah, Troy Durrell. That was Troy Durrell. He was.
He came out blazing, though, right?
He came out blazing.
Okay, I remember. I vaguely remember that fight.
Yeah. It was crazy because he was trained by Angelo Dundee, and I was just of the feeling after coming off that Don Lee fight that was in February, and now it's May, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna murder anybody. I'm just feeling myself. I just think I'm the it, right? Yep. So I just thought that once I catch him, it's over, and that's all I was thinking about. I was getting into that puncher's curse kind of thing.
Yep.
And I worked hard in the gym. I did all the rest of that kind of stuff. I got into the fight, and I was like, as soon as I catch him, it's over. Come out the first round, bang! I catch him with the left hook. He goes down. He gets up. I drop him again. He gets up. I go at him again, and I'm lining him up. The bell rings. End of the first round. So that was a huge energy thing that I put out, and him too.
Yeah.
Second round, catch him again, hurt him, catch him. He hangs on. The third round, now you're starting to breathe a little bit because you went. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you start to think, okay, now you got to start thinking in there, and then so he's thinking, okay, I must be tired. So he's starting to come on, and that's when the fight started to get interesting. And then
And that's when you're going, where's that second wind? How many rounds before that's going to kick in?
And it was just like, that's when the expertise, you need those guys in your corner. They're going to tell you the right things and help you manage the situation, because instinctually you're going to want to do one thing and you're frustrated. Like as a fighter, you're like, what am I doing wrong? Because I did this in the first and the second round. It worked so perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm still doing it. What? Well, he adapted in the corner. They said one thing I saw afterwards, and when I saw the fight afterwards, they said, don't pull out on the clinch, and when you do back up, just put your right hand up here, because I was like left hook heavy in that fight, and that's exactly what he did. And so every time he pulled out, he pulled back here, and he caught my hook. And then they said, they had him trained. They were like, I guess they saw him how I jab and do those things, and they were like, look, whenever he throws that jab, like my reach was longer than his. He goes, at the same time as you slip, move your head to the side and come up with that jab like this. And Angelo said to me beforehand, he goes, we're going to out-jab you this fight, Olajide. We're going to, because that was my weapon, right? I was like, yeah okay. All right, go ahead. We're going to see about this. He was like, yeah, we're going to out-jab you. And sure as hell, he was catching me with that jab. And I was frustrated. I was like, what is he doing? And I kept getting hit with it. I was like, yeah. Jerry curl going all over the place. I was like, oh, man. But, we adapted in the later rounds I came on.
Yeah. You think the eye and just having that knockout success against him, that changed your fighting style a little bit? Did you talk about it? You kind of get into the puncher's curse where you go, I can knock anybody out anytime I want. So you become a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more of a brawler.
Yeah, you become a little bit more aggressive. And what happens is you tend to not respect the other person's abilities. In fact, you don't even see it. You don't acknowledge it. And we never really studied our fighters going in. Like a lot of guys today and in the recent past, they take a look at their fighters that they're going to fight, and they really do a study because you want to see the habits. I certainly would. If I were training a fighter today and I was going to fight Canelo, I would be like, my guy was going to fight Canelo, I would be like, this is what he does. These are his habits, and these are the kind of sparring partners that we need in order to make sure you're ready for that, right? Because you need someone who's going to be able to emulate that style to get as close as possible to that style. Well, that's not something that we did. So every time you got into the ring with somebody, it's like this absolutely new experience. Sure. And now I see what kind of like, the fighters of yesteryear, the fighters in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. You may just see a news clip of them, like in a newspaper. You adapt in the ring. Like today, you've got footage of the guy probably from his amateur days, and so you can find ribbons of information on an individual. In my day, you could, get like 2 or 3 fights, but today you see everybody and there's no excuse for it.
Yeah, it was much more difficult back then.
Yeah, it was, but still no excuse. I definitely mentally was the wrong approach.
Right.
And I wasn't so experienced that I would be able to make that change on my own. Like it's something that I needed fresh eyes for, or eyes that weren't my own.
Right.
Because I was amenable to a lot of things. If you said something to me, I would try it. I absolutely would. In fact, even sometimes to my detriment, because what happens with fighters is like once you should be taught how to fight, be given all the ammunition. Left hook, jab, right hand, blocking, slipping, feinting, all of that kind of stuff. You load up the weapons, right? And then you're able to call on those weapons at any point you need them in a fight.
Right.
That kind of like that, I see that now in retrospect, looking back, but I didn't know that then. And those are some things I wish I knew. There are fighters like Ali and Leonard, for instance, that are just instinctually good fighters, and they'll listen to the cornerman up to a certain extent because they're in the ring and they know firsthand better than anyone what's going on. They understand the vibe, the ebb, the flow, what this man's doing, what he's looking for. The referee who's in the ring with 2 fighters can't tell you what those 2 guys are vibing on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know that, being it, you've done it yourself. So it's kind of like that kind of thing. I didn't trust myself enough to know that I could make those kinds of decisions. Maybe I just didn't have enough of an amateur experience, that pedigree that really helps. You see a variety of different styles. You've learned to handle them so that when they come to you in the middle of a fight, you know you have to adapt without anyone telling you. But you notice that of the greatest fighters, Duran, Arguello, whatever, they're able to adapt and do whatever they have to do in order to win that fight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's
the difference between good and great, is that ability to adapt. I mean, you look at the Hearns Leonard thing. I mean, it's a perfect example.
Yeah.
They literally switched roles mid-fight in order to,
It's insane to get to where they had to get to. Like, once Hearns gets up on his toes and starts moving, I don't even know how Leonard tracked him down.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, good thing it was 15 rounds because yeah, there would have been a much huger ladder to climb if it were 12.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was able to do that, like he came out early, and then the fact that he was like Leonard was able to turn that corner and just say, okay, I'm planting my feet and let's go.
Yeah, I'm going to become the banger.
Yeah, and Leonard is probably like people talk about, you know, that fury, that animal instinct that somebody like Tyson has, and that kind of, you know what I mean, that want to kill. So I've never seen killer instinct in any other person more than I've seen it in Leonard.
100%. I totally agree with that. I mean, he was one of the best finishers of all time.
Man, I don't know many people that could finish better than him.
Yeah.
If he gets you in trouble, you got hell to get through.
Yeah, and seemingly out of character too. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just wouldn't expect it from that guy.
No, you would not.
His competitive spirit was just
Yeah,
amazing.
I don't even know if I think it goes beyond competitive. I really do. I think it's something. I think he taps into something emotional. I think he taps into like a great physical ability as well. Obviously, he's coordinated, he's powerful, he's fast, he's got all that stuff, and he's extremely intelligent. But he feels that person's strength and weaknesses. You even saw in the Hagler fight, like people want to think he just ran around the ring and like pity pat his way to a decision. There are times he stood right in front of Hagler and said, "Let's go."
Yep.
You know what I mean? And he flurried out and he was right there to get hit if Hagler wanted to let go. But Hagler was just like, he was overwhelmed. He just had to cover up. And what else could he do? You know, God bless Hagler. And Hagler was one of the greatest fighters as well.
Yeah.
But Leonard really, you know, he earned that fight. He
fought a calculated fight.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and he had to, given all the things, you know, the attributes, a lot of those attributes, like in terms of size and power and all that kind of stuff, were not in his favor.
Yep.
But his reflexes, his intelligence, his timing was just immaculate.
Yeah.
Immaculate.
Interesting parallel with him and you. I think, you know, he for a long time fought against that pretty boy image.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are times he had to prove himself. He had to sit down his punches, and that part of the killer instinct was part of that. But you also, because you were marketed so well, you had the looks, you had the physique, you had the name, the silk, you know, you were packaged that well. But at some point in your career, I mean, you had to have struggled with that a little bit to go, okay, I got to prove myself. And that made you maybe a little bit more of a brawler in like the Tate fight and some of those others.
You know, there's so many complexities, so many different levels. But my first nickname that I started off, my first 3 fights as an amateur, as a professional, my nickname was Master Blaster.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Yeah, and I was 3-0 with 3 knockouts. I was just like, I love that song by Stevie Wonder, and also it was the Thunderdome, Welcome to Thunderdome. This guy, Master Blaster.
Well, that's the exact opposite of the silk.
Exactly. And that's how I went at people. I went at them like that.
Yep.
But then for some reason, I don't know how it happened. My father said, you know, I think silk would be better.
Yeah.
And I kind of I was like, yeah, okay, I could do that too. And so for my second fight on NBC, I remember I was like, uh-oh. I remember when they did the interview with me and they posted it before the fight, you know, the pre-fight interview?
Yep.
And they were playing, the only fighter they ever played Sade for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Smooth operator. And I was like,
Smooth as silk.
The guys in the gym are going to hate me.
You got set up.
Yeah, everyone's getting like Public Enemy, you know what I mean? And then I come to the ring and they're playing Smooth Operator by Sade. I was like, oh, it's over. No one's going to respect me. Who's going to want to lose to me? I'm like, they're going to try 5 times as hard not to lose.
Yeah, they put a target on your back.
Yeah, oh man, what is it ever? But, you know, I did. I resorted a lot to brawling in a lot of my fights because I didn't have the knowledge to shift up. You know, I didn't like the weapons that I had were still new to me, so it's almost like I didn't know how to use them. That was one of the unfortunate things about the experience. I was thrown in deep early with a lot of really good fighters, and it was like sink or swim. So at that point, like in the gym, you're having wars and you're learning, but at the same time, every time you go to the well in anything, every time you go to the well, and you have to go to the well, especially in sparring and training, you go into the well, there's less water in there every time you come up. Every time you come up, there's less water. Your resiliency is less. Your desire to even do it, your desire to do it is less. And so that has to be managed so moderately. And myself, I don't come from, like, my main emotion, my go-to emotion is not angst, is not anger, is not the will, the love of the fight. I love the competition and everything, but I don't hate anybody. My natural instinct isn't like, this man wants to kill me, I'm going to kill him
I want
first.
to hurt you. Yeah.
Yeah, but that would be a great fuel to work with too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But everything has to be complemented with skill. I understand that, but there's a certain fire you need, and there are times like I'd hit Curtis Parker and I had him ready to go, and I didn't feel the need to take his head off, and and I let him back into the fight because I didn't finish him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's those kinds of things that can make a huge difference, and so that killer instinct, that line, that angst, like we're talking about, that you need. Those are some of the attributes that I wish I would have had more of and could have made a big. But everyone has, like, if you're not full in one, you're short on the other. It's like
Right.
he's we all wish we could have done something different in retrospect.
It's not. It's kind of like a boxing game where you pick your attributes.
Yeah,
I've got speed. I gotta have power. I've got footwork, but no head movement.
Yeah.
You gotta pick your poison.
Yeah, I'm just glad I didn't have the best chin.
I know.
Bad chin. I didn't have a bad chin, but to have the greatest chin is the worst thing you can do, because that ends up being your go-to. And for one, you're going to eat punches in the end. You always end up eating too many punches. You always
Becomes
end
too
up.
easy.
Yeah. Oh man, it's like the guys who take a great punch always seem to have the worst exits in boxing.
Yeah.
And then their life afterwards, because you carry that with you the rest of your life. What you did for a living is kind of painfully obvious.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you were in some great fights back then. I mean, we were leading into the Frank Tate thing. First time you gone 15 rounds, right?
First time I did, that was the first time that I went 15 rounds. I scheduled to go 15 before, and I'd won that fight. It was the World Athletic Association over in Fiji. I'd won that fight. It ended in 11, I believe.
Yeah.
But that was the O'Grady's world title, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Does that play in your head as a fighter, going, okay, this is going 50. I'm beyond that 10 rounds I've been before. Or no, I've prepared for this. I'm conditioned.
I knew I was always in. For some reason, I just knew that 15 rounds was never a concern for me. Getting tired. Again, after I had one fight on that Spinks card, I fought this kid, Stacy McSwain. I swear to God, by the fourth round, it was scheduled for 8. By the fourth round, you could have, I don't know, put the biggest oxygen machine, I don't know, just put me in a ventilator, because I was sucking, my lungs were burning. I thought, I got 3 more rounds and this is hell. I'd never felt anything like that before. I got out the ring, I was like, I didn't live a bad life. I was, 18? I was really healthy, but I just couldn't carry that pace, and I had to. I was so tired by the end. I said, I am never going to put myself in a position again. I'm going to do everything I can, and never. Tired should be the least of my problems, and every fighter can control that. So that's kind of the thing I do when with my fitness as well now. When I parlay, I turn it over for my boxing career. I'm like, fatigue should be the last thing you experience. That's the first thing that should be. Every fighter can control that, and if you can do that, you can control a great deal of your destiny and what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, that did go the distance. You lost the title. It was a close fight, though. I think it was a unanimous decision, but some of those rounds really could have gone either way.
Yeah, it was funny because I've seen that fight once. That was probably like my. Look, I lost to Barkley. I've lost to other guys.
Yeah.
This fight to me was the one that stays with me the most, and not just because not because it was the first time I lost a fight as a professional, but just because I just thought it was my worst performance, and I thought it was my worst performance because I wasn't able to establish myself the way I have in fights. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's going to beat me, they're at least going to catch a concussion of some degree. You know what I mean?
Pay a price for it.
Yeah. You're gonna know. And Frank did a great job. And going into the fight, it was interesting because there's so many things going up into that fight that caused it to be the way it was, and that for him as well as for me. But I I knew he was going to be a difficult style for me
Yeah.
because I'd never fought anything like him before. And it's not like we did the kind of sparring that would prepare me for that guy. So all my experiences in win, lose, all the rest, I remember them all so vividly that
Yeah.
it helps me when I'm training people today, either training them to compete or even training them fitness wise. I pull the same experiences in, and I'm like, I was not ready to fight that man.
Yeah.
I had never seen anything like him before. The punches, the angles he was coming from,
Yeah.
as obvious as they may be on the camera, in the ring, they're just not even like, they're not even like he would do this thing. He threw like an overhand right. He would dip, and then the punch would come after it. I've never seen that. Usually when people fight you, it's like if they're moving their shoulder, they're moving their fist.
Yeah.
So it's like the punch is coming, so it's a matter of timing. You just kind of like got to get out the way. Nah, he would throw, like if you threw a combination, he would throw 2 or 3 different speeds each punch. So he'd lazy out this, but he'd whip this at high speed, and then he'd come back with this at half speed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where you would usually go here, then here to move your head out the way, because the timing is 3 different times coming at you. It's like you move here, bam, you move here, bam, and you move here, bow. I was like, what the hell am I? What am I fighting? Has this guy got 8 arms? I'd never seen it.
Well, mentally, you can't prepare. If a fighter fights the same angle, the same punching velocity, you can adjust in your mind and mentally or physically. You can adjust. You know what's coming. But when it's unpredictable, it's kind of like the Ray Robinson thing. You get the punch that hurts is the one you can't see.
Exactly, and that's kind of, you'll see a lot of fighters with that kind of success. If you haven't seen it before, if it's new to you, then you have to adapt in the ring. You're going to catch it before you finally adapt. But the greatest fighters like, Sugar Ray and Ali and Duran, all the rest of those guys, they're able to adapt. Their thing goes right away. Okay, I see. This is where I calculate, put it up, and bow and take care of it. Break it down. You know what I mean?
Well, and then you bring up the Bramble fight or the Barkley fight.
Yes.
That has got to be one. I mean, I'm surprised it's not talked about more. I mean, what a back and forth. I mean, that was similar, not on the same level, but similar to Hagler Hearns. I mean, from the opening round, it was just banging. I think he had you down in the second. You knocked him down in like the 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
And he looked like he got shot with a gun. I don't know how he ever got up.
It was absolutely, that fight to me, like, I remember vividly everything, of course. And I remember, going into that fight and, Barkley was big. He was serious. I knew it was going to be a fight. I knew we were going to do it. And I was going in there to box him. My intent, like they call it the Big Apple Bad Blood, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not known as a brawler, but I know that I can hit, and I know that if I could turn one over and anyone that hit, they're hitting the canvas.
Yeah.
But people thought, silk, pretty boy, curly hair, iridescent shorts, all the rest of that kind of stuff. Like,
The tassels.
The tassels and all the rest of
Famous
that kind
tassels.
of stuff. Michael Jackson, that didn't help. But when I got in the ring, like if I turn one over, you were gonna feel it. You were gonna get dropped. So we're in this fight, and we go out there, and he's coming at me, and I'm, I had Marv Albert and Freddie Pacheco, who are not the most knowledgeable boxing people, and they're like, "Oh, Olajide's scared. Oh, he's got no soul in his shoes." And SOU, they're making like jokes like that, and I'm like, "Yo, you can like teach people really what's going on here, because this is kind of it was a real interesting fight, and it wasn't that I was afraid of him, like when I was moving and stepping out the way and everything. I don't think it's ever fear. It's like you've never seen it before, so you have to adjust.
Yeah.
And that's what the apprehension is. It's like you're adapting to the moment, and you're recalibrating. You're recalibrating, you're calculating, and you're like, okay, you're finding your way. But as you're finding the way, you have this guy chucking bombs at you, and he doesn't even give. Like I'm not built like Iran. Iran could take all sorts of hell. You know what I mean?
He didn't get knocked down often.
Yeah, he get hit, he can get cut, it's swollen eye, and he's still swinging at you, and he's coming at. My body's a little bit more, I'm a little more delicate, you know what I mean? So when I get hit,
you're more like a Ferrari than a tank.
Thank you. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. I like that analogy. So, built for speed and all the rest of that kind of
There
stuff.
you
But if
go.
I get into a collision, there's going to be a problem. I'm not going to be moving this fast. But still, my aggression is telling me I need to go at this guy. We have a score to settle and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And so, because a lot of stuff went back and forth between our camps off camera before, you know what I mean? And so I'm drawn into that. I'm committed. I'm drawn into the slugfest, and there's no way we're going into it. We're going the distance. So it's him or me. So we get out there and we're exchanging, and it's funny because with my style, like I threw punches so subtly in a lot of ways that people, they can't see it, and especially the untrained guy. These guys sitting down the ringside calling a fight. They didn't see like the times that, like, I know I hit him. Like one time I pulled back and I came back with like a power jab. I caught him on the point of the chin and I saw his eyes turn off for a second. I saw that light go. And then he came back up because he was in great shape. He takes a great shot. But I know I heard him then. And I tried following up on it and he recovered, and you know what I mean? But that the acknowledgement of that wasn't there. But I saw that I was hurting him, and I saw that I was catching him. And there were times when, I'm rolling with punches, and because of my hair, the way it was set up and everything, I'm turning with it, and the punch looks a lot more effective than what it was.
Looks like it's connecting,
Yeah, it looks like it's connecting, and it wasn't. And everyone was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, okay. So we go on, and he caught me. I did one thing. I got impatient. I jumped in with a left hook because I thought it was the perfect thing to do at that time. It was just a miscalculation. At the same time, he had this hand up, and he came with a left hook, and I didn't see it coming. That was my bad side of my vision. He caught me with a left hook. I was like, I hit the canvas. I was like, I was cussing. and I was pissed, and I was like, oh, what?
I'm not hurt, but I'm mad.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God. I get up, the house is going crazy, and I wasn't hurt bad. You know what I mean? I knew where I was, and where he was. He came at me, he slipped, I caught him a couple, the bell rings, go back to our corner, and he came out the fourth round like a house on fire, like, okay, now you got him, like this. And up to then, the fight was even. We were exchanging rounds and all the rest of that.
Back and forth.
Yeah. And he caught me with another punch. It was a left hook. I stuck my hand out and I left it out there. Cardinal sin of a fighter, right?
Yeah.
Because once that's like leaving Hansel and Gretel, leaving the bread.
The bread
keep your hand out there. It's a direct line back to your chin.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I threw the jab. I left it out there. All he did was come over with the left hook. Bow. I felt my legs dip like this. He came in. I grabbed him. I tied him up for a second.
I remember that.
And he thought, I got this kid now. I got this kid now. He came in with a left hook. I pulled back at the same time. I pulled back and caught him with a left hook, dead pen on the chin. Bow, he drops. I was like, finally, yeah.
Stay down.
The place erupted, stay. I was like, I go back to the corner. I look, and this man is getting up at 5'4", something. He hit the canvas, and he's rolling and getting up right away. Like the Terminator. I was like, oh, here we go. He gets up, I'm laughing at him. He's like, okay, it's on. He comes back out. I hit him a few punches. The bell rings. He goes back to his corner, and I was like, I felt good. I felt, okay, I got him now. I got this guy now. And I remember my dad said to me, he said, double up on the jab, come back with a right hook to the body, and come up with the left hook to the chin. And he goes, and it's over. It's pay dirt. You hit it like this. I was like, bet. Okay? Bell rings. I come out. It's early. What did I do? I double jab. I whip the right hook to the body. He threw a perfect counter left hook. As soon as I touch his body with the right hook, it triggered off a left hook. He caught me. I didn't even see it because, again, it was coming from my blind side. Bow! He caught me on the side of the head. I hit the canvas. I was like, what the hell was that? I get up. He came at me, and I'm slipping punches. I'm moving. He's catching me with some. I'm making a miss. I'm falling back into the ropes. I see Arthur Mercante Jr. moving into range. I was like, MF. Don't stop this fight. I'm saying that to myself, and I'm like, don't stop this fight. My legs weren't under me, but my mind, everything was absolutely clear. I was back on the ropes. He was missing the shots. It lives with me to this day. I'm telling you, it's crazy. But Doug, and then all of a sudden he just jumps on Iran and stops the fight, and I screamed. I was like, what the are you doing? And I was going back to the corner, and Arthur Mercante grabs me. I was like, no, get off me. I can't believe you stopped this fight. We were in it. He goes to me, you'll fight him again. I was like, I'm fighting him now. I don't want to fight him.
The next time.
Fight him again next time. I'm now. Like, I was so upset.
That's frustrating.
That really took my heart. That fight took a lot of my heart and love for this. I don't know. It's just like some things, because you're ready to die for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And as a fighter, you know, you go in a ring, and it's like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? If I could die for it, I'm already like, I've already given my life to it. I've already given my physicality to it. Yeah. And there's nothing more honorable to me than going in there and doing what I have to do and let it go. But living with regret.
Yeah,
it's one of the hardest things, because it just keeps playing back at you. It just keeps playing back. And I know, like, death is like a crazy thing to talk about, but I don't think that would have happened to me anyway. Right. You know what I mean? I'm in great shape, and my body recovers and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But when you go in the ring, you know that's the kind of deal you're making. You go in there, you don't want anyone else to settle it except for you and the guy that you're fighting. Yeah. You know what I mean? This is, to me, this was my, you know, that ritual into manhood. Yeah. That's what this fight symbolized to me. And we were going toe to toe. It was one of the magazines, was it Ring or World Boxing or something? It was their fight of the year. It was on everyone's like fight of the year kind of thing, because we had the bad blood going into it. And when the bell rang, neither one of us was like, we were about it. It was full of emotion, full of physicality. And unfortunately, you know, I mean, it didn't turn out well for me. It turned out great for him. He got the fight with Hearns and knocked Hearns out.
but you ultimately fought Hearns too. I mean, that was like almost, you maybe had one fight after.
Yeah. So I had the Barkley fight. At that fight, everything came undone between my father and I. It wasn't good going into that fight. We were fighting incessantly. It was crazy. There was just no way it was going to happen anymore. So I had to take time off for my eye, but I also had to take time off for my father. And I came back. Gil Clancy was going to be my trainer. Ended up being Hector Roca, who I really wanted to train with. And at that point, when I came back, my first fight was Kenny Lopez. I also got Angelo Dundee.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember seeing him.
My first fight, was Troy Watson. Then after Troy Watson, I had an eye injury. I sparred with Murky Sosa.
Oh, geez.
And this is when I know that guy.
He's a banger.
Yeah, and he had hands, knuckles.
Had big old hands.
He was big. Yeah. His hands were like him and Hearns had the biggest hands I'd ever seen. Those guys were like, they had like you know, those mace, like that
mace and chain kind of
thing. I used to have. Yeah, one of those things, like a chain and a big metal ball at the end of their fist. And so,
probably felt like that too.
Yeah, and he would go to war. Like, I remember him sparring with heavyweights and picking them up and moving them and everything. I was like, man, this guy's a monster. But we sparred, and
he's big though.
Yeah, he was big. And he was great, nice guy. He's being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Murky Sosa coming up, so I'm really happy for him. But
he's training guys at Johnny Toco's in Las Vegas.
Yes, he's still out there. He's a good dude. What a good dude. Yeah. And so anyway, we were sparring, and he caught me with one of his big knuckles, and that, from the injury, even made it like worse. I had to undergo surgery, and then I had to take a year off. Came back, got Angelo, and that kind of made it easier transitioning back into boxing, because it kind of had a little uniqueness to it, and add a little luster, a little shine, I should say, added a nice little shine. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, what are they doing? What are they working on? And so then I fought this kid, Kenny Lopez, knocked him out in Vegas. Then I fought Dennis Milton, and I had lost a decision to him when I actually knocked him out in the 10th round. And the fight didn't go the distance. The referee pulled me off him. I knocked him out. He was out on his feet against the ropes. Referee pulls me off him. The bell rings 5 seconds later, and then all of a sudden they said, the bell said, the ref said, I thought I heard a bell.
Oh shit!
And it was crazy.
Well, that's your fault. Don't penalize me for it.
Yeah. But he grabbed me, pulled him off him, waved his hand like this, and said the fight was over. And what do you know? Like, they turned around and they said, well, we stopped. We thought I heard the bell. We went to the scorecard. We gave Dennis the decision, a split decision win over you. I was like, how does that even make sense? So we took it to the courts because that was affecting my fight. I had a potential title fight coming up, and yo, so this is one of the ugliest sides of boxing that you ever want to see. Randy Gordon was the commissioner at that time. And he and it was in New York Newsday. Wallace Matthews wrote something on it. It was in the Post and it was in the Daily News. Michael Katz wrote something on it. They said New York Athletic Commission makes ding dong decision. It was like a full-page article on it. Yep. Dennis Milton's guys, who I believe were connected, they said to Randy Gordon, if you don't give my guy this fight, I'm going to throw you out the effing window. That's in this day and age. This is like the 90s, early 90s, late 80s. He said, if you don't give him the decision, we're going to throw you out the effing window. So Randy was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, they're going to throw me out the window. I had to give the decision to him. I'm like,
not a big deal.
You're a commissioner, dude. Like, that's not the way it's supposed to happen. That's not your job. You're supposed to say, throw me out the window then. I'm still going to give the fight to the guy who won.
Partial.
Yeah. So anyway, I lost that decision, but that decision didn't come down till after the fight. So they had an asterisk against my record. I fought Hearns. I lost the decision. That was an interesting fight. That was a fight where I wish that, I mean, we all wish a lot of things. Hearns is one of the greatest talents I've ever been in the ring with. The greatest talent. He is the greatest talent I've ever been in the ring with. He's fast, he's hard, in great shape. He's just, everything about him is timing. Like, he dropped me in the 9th round, and I just saw his fist coming back. I didn't even see it leave. I just saw him going, like, pulling it back, and I'm on my way down, and I'm like, go down quick before this, because the second one's coming. He'll follow up on you. I don't want to be a Pepino Cuevas highlight.
No, right? When you're pedaling in the air.
And you don't get down in time. You know what I mean? Like, Cuevas didn't go down. He should have just folded, collapsed the tent.
Right.
Because that second one was murder that caught him. I was like, body, go down quickly, please go down. And I got down before the second one came. And I got up, right? This is the 9th round. I got up. I was okay. I looked at him and went like this. Okay, let's go. We're going to fight. Now we're going to fight, because Angelo was telling me, move around, don't engage, move around. And we gave away a great deal of the 5-6 rounds. Right. That was the strategy. But in the 9th round, when I got dropped, I was like, okay, let's go. And then we started going toe-to-toe after that. I went like this. I thought he was going to be like, oh, he's okay, he's fresh. I'm just going to, like, bide my time.
Yeah. No.
He came at me like a hurricane. Yeah. I did not expect that. He was throwing everything. I mean, a miss, I survived it. I was against the ropes moving away. He did this. He went, I was like, yo.
There.
Right there, he told me that's my chance. He took that, he sucked in, I saw his ribs, he went down like this. I was like, okay. I threw a hook, I caught him kind of like, I nicked the top of his head. I saw him kind of like look a little bit unsure. And then I went at him, and then we exchanged. I drove him against the ropes. There was like 10 seconds left. We exchanged a little bit. Then he went like this. He was looking at me. I had me lined up. He threw a left uppercut to my body. I blocked it. I caught it with my right hand, and I came over with a left hook. Bow! I caught him on the head. I see his eyes roll up, and he pulled back like this. And I ran I moved forward, and I was about to throw another punch, and the referee grabbed me and pulled me off him. And I didn't get a chance to let that one go because the bell rang at the same time. And I was like, oh, hell. Like, we're back to the corner. Then the fight was on. Then everyone was awake. Before that, it was like a sleeper. 7th round, the fight really started. Yeah. And from then, as soon as the bell rang for the 10th round, Hearns got up on that bicycle, and that was it. Yeah. I could not get close to him. It was just impossible. The man was so amazing. That jab, the movement, the feinting, and my eye was shot. He just killed my eye.
The reach, his body, his length, and you have like a 78-inch reach or something.
Yeah,
like a typical heavyweight or something.
You know what? The wildest thing, he only had an inch reach on me.
Oh, really?
And so, but his reflex, his release is incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't even, it just goes from here and it just goes bang like this. There's no load up. And he gets maximum power on it. I've never seen anything like it. Like usually long arm fighters need that leverage. You need to pull it back first in order to get it out. Not him. He's from here to the face, like just instantly, turn it over.
How cool, though, to have that experience and share the ring with somebody on that level that it's at that, really one of the greatest fighters of all time.
It really is. It's one of the greatest fighters of all time. And when it comes to guys that like as an entertainer and really gives fighters, gives fans what they came to see, he's exciting. He's like one of those guys that's the heart of boxing. There's no bullshit with him. No bullshit, none. Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, his brother will get on your nerves, but he was in my ear before the fight. He'd be like, yeah. I was like, man. Yeah. I was like, man. But Tommy, yeah. And his brother was a good fighter too.
Yeah.
His brother was a good fighter. They all, you know what I mean? Everyone coming out of Kronk had talent. You had to deal with, you had to deal with it. They were good fighters.
Well, you got some good boxing memories made for you and the fans.
Yeah.
Win, lose, or draw, it's all good. And again, you've taken that and parlayed it into a really successful after career.
Really fortunate. I mean, I remember, going back to like meeting royalty, I remember Roberto Duran coming up to me and talking. I was like, yo, Roberto Duran came up to me, talk to me. He was like, before the Hearns fight, he goes, come on, I want to bring you to the gym and I want to work with you on some stuff like this, fight Hearns. I was like, wow, that's
epic.
Yeah, that's epic. Yeah. I remember Alexis Arguello coming to my fight and talking to him and just some crazy fighters, crazy ability, meeting Archie Moore, Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, just, guys that are, the contenders and great champions and just meeting them all. And I really look back and I don't think I could have been ever any more fortunate.
Yeah.
Jake LaMotta, that was one of my, I was like, oh my God.
For sure.
I'm sitting in the house of the Raging Bull and he cooked pizza. Like, what?
Really? That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I have a picture with Jake LaMotta and Rocky Graciano.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like this in the ring. It was a shot. They both came in for it. It was me in the middle, Jake and Rocky, and I was just like, this is insane.
Awesome. Probably a little surreal at the time, right? It's like,
really is.
Somebody pinch me.
Yeah. Oh man.
But cool that you're taking all those memories, all that experience in the ring, and now you're able to pass it on to, actual fighters. I know you work with a lot of fitness models.
Yes.
That runs the gamut.
Yeah. No, I've worked with a lot of entertainers like Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal and Will Smith, and I've worked with staging movies and plays. I've also worked with some extremely beautiful women, like the Victoria's Secret. We started that whole fitness craze, and that kind of led into like the global, so in what was it 1991 when I started fitness boxing, and it really caught on. But when it really went to like epidemic levels is when I started training like Doutzen Coast and Adriana Lima and the girl from Victoria's Secret. Because once that happened and women saw that you could do this in order to get in shape, and that's the kind of body that it gives you, it was
and it's empowering.
Yeah, it's empowering.
Which they have to dig.
Yeah, and it's not condescending. Like I teach these girls how a real fighter would learn. I'm not interested in just like, you know what I mean? Yeah, the byproduct is you are going to get in shape. You're going to look amazing in that lingerie. You're going to look amazing in whatever you're doing. But I'm teaching you how to really do it. I'm not teaching you any aerobic boxing BS where people are going to be all flimsy when Adriana turns over that right hand, best believe that if she hits a dude on the chin with that, they're going to know.
They'll think twice. I remember seeing you on video working the mitts with her. It's legit stuff,
Yeah.
If you didn't know that she was a Victoria's Secret model, you go, okay, maybe she's an amateur fighter.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's like, it's like you take that energy, that unrealized, and you kind of like take it over into this other area. And of course for the sake of boxing, like I couldn't ever think of doing it any other way for the sake of boxing. Like boxing, like I said, to me, it's as amazing as any discipline and any martial art. It should be held with that same reverence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's aggressive yoga.
Sacredness.
Yeah. It is aggressive yoga. It is, it has that yoga thing. It's about knowing yourself. You will know with the right teacher teaching you a discipline. All the lessons that you need to know and operate in this world are there for you.
Yeah.
No
That's
doubt.
great. That's great. Well, your everybody that's not familiar, you did do the choreography for, and you mentioned it briefly, but you did the Will Smith, the Ali movie, and also the Chuck Wepner movie with Liv Schreiber.
Oh yeah, I did that as well. So
Some of the best out there. Boxing choreography too. It could be bad.
But the choreography, what they did with Ali, which is really interesting, and that's Michael Mann's idea, the director, great director, one of the greatest, is what they did with that was they wanted to take pieces of Ali's fights and redo those exactly as they were out of film. So that was Michael's idea, and that's what Will agreed to. And so I didn't do the choreography; it was pre-existing. And there was another kid, Daryl Foster, I think his name was, who trained Will, but that trained him. But I did like the staging of it and making sure everything was right and consulting. And then of the other fighters, the guys that fought Will in it, the guy that like James Toney, I got James Toney to play Joe Frazier. And
Charles Shuford was in that.
Charles Shuford.
James Toney was great in that as Joe Frazier. I mean, he looked.
Was he amazing?
He did a good job. Yeah.
Yeah, he was amazing.
It's good casting.
Yeah. So I was proud of that one. JT is, an incredible talent. Absolutely incredible talent, and you couldn't have found anyone better to do Joe Frazier than that.
And having a real fighter, be a fighter, just like Andre Ward in Creed, it was perfect. He did a great job. It looked authentic. And,
And we had Al Ice Core, and as Michael Bent as Sonny Liston was.
Yeah. Oh, that was good too.
Yeah, he was great. And then you had Al Ice Core, Ice Cole.
Cole.
Ice Cole. Yeah, he was. Who did you play? Ernie Terrell.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. So there are a lot of
fun.
Like these real fighters in there. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Give it that authentic feel.
Yeah. So it was a good time. The whole thing was it wasn't like work. Like when we went to LA, we did part of it there, Chicago, Miami. Then we went to Africa and we shot the George Foreman scene there.
Zaire,
Yeah. We actually shot it in Mozambique, and we had lunch with some incredible people. I mean, it was just. The whole thing was unforgettable.
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela. We had dinner with Nelson Mandela.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And he was sitting there talking to us about the fights. He loved Ali. He loved boxing. He boxed himself a little bit. And it was just like the table was just yay long, and we were just sitting there talking to him and watching him. And I'm just like, to this very day, I'm just like, wow.
I'm just a kid from Vancouver. How's this happen?
Yeah, right.
That's great, though.
Half a limey. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, again, a fun career for us boxing fans.
Thank you.
It's one for you too. It's all easier in retrospect, but some good times. So if you're not familiar with some of Michael's fights, I know some of our younger audience members won't be, but listeners, but go out, get them on YouTube, watch them, pick them up. They're all out there now. Easy access.
It's so funny. You say they're all out there now. My kids from when they were in elementary school, like, Dad, post your fights. Dad, post your fights. They have I have 4 losses. 4 of my losses are up there.
Oh, really?
And one of my wins.
Well, you need to start uploading. You need the Michael Olajide channel.
Yeah. I need to like, start doing some uploading. I know.
That would be good.
I was like, son, if that's what they want to, I was 1-5. If that's what 1-4, if they want to believe that, my finish record was actually 28-4. But you know what I mean. You'll only find 4 of my losses, but in each of those losses, I kind of did okay.
Yeah. Well, you absolutely.
And I promise I'll get some wins up there. I'll get some wins.
Anybody who can hang in there with Thomas Hearns for 12 rounds, you got to tip a hat.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
So again, for all of our listeners and fans, how can they connect with you on social media, website? On your website, do you still have those jump ropes?
I do have the jump ropes.
One of the best jump ropes in the business. Sorry, was it the Rainmaker or?
Yeah, it was the one is the Rainmaker, and now I have the Blizzard as well.
The Blizzard is the weighted one, right?
Yeah, with the weighted one is beautiful, and it's really lightweighted, so it has substance in it. Yeah. I'm developing one right now called the Silk Samurai. It's insane. It's beyond everybody.
Is that the big ropes with the rubber handles?
Yeah.
Okay, I saw you post something about that. Those look awesome.
Yeah, they're incredible learning tools, but conditioning tools for even if you're not a boxer, it doesn't matter. It's really an incredible. It helps you learn, but takes your conditioning to another level at the same time. And you can find me. You can find me on Instagram. I have two, but if you speak Spanish, El Cuerpo de Papi, Body Daddy. El Cuerpo de Papi. Or you can get me at Michael Silk Olajide, which is my new one, which you'll find. But also, if you want to get, if you're interested in my workouts or product, you can find me at michaelsilkolajide.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Doug.
Get out there, support my friend and a legend, Michael Olajide Jr. It's good talking to you. We got to keep in touch again. We lost it during all this pandemic, but
but always I appreciate you, man. You're one of the beautiful parts of boxing, man. You always have been from day one. You're a great energy. You're a great resource. You're a friend to all boxers, and you're a fighter yourself. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Good. We'll talk again soon.
I look forward to it, brother. Take care.
Thank you for watching this episode of Title Unboxed. If you're anything like me, you can never get too much boxing. So if you'd like to watch more episodes, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our Title Boxing YouTube page.